Well, hello and happy Tuesday. My name is Patrick. This appears to be my third installment of a moderate response from a moderate Canadian to extremist rhetoric that is taking over much of this country. My response this time is an interesting one because another border crossing, in fact, the most important border crossing in the country, is virtually blocked up. That's the one between Windsor and Detroit. While driving out here today, I was listening to the mayor of Windsor saying this is inexcusable. This is the arterial route for the economy of this country. I'd like to step back and remember that 90% of Canadian truckers are vaccinated. They are doing wonderful jobs, just like frontline workers. The Canadian Trucking Association does not support this protest. My heart goes out to the people of downtown central Ottawa who are living in a situation of siege. The national capital of this country is being sieged by an extremist fringe who are being supported quantifiably by dark money from abroad, from presumably right-wing groups in the United States, whatever right-wing means in this day and age. And also, it would seem, those auto-generated tweets that come out of Russia as they stick their hands, as Mr. Putin sticks his business into our politics. And then, of course, somewhat unsurprisingly, but guess who starts yapping on is Donald Trump, saying that he stands for freedom and stands with the Canadian truckers. And then he has this giant billion-dollar Murdoch media come up behind, anti-science, anti-logic, and sticking their nose, frankly, in another country's business. Can you imagine that the former president of the United States is actually being awful, being horrible about the Canadian Prime Minister? Let's step back for these extremists who are in our national capital and throughout the country waving their F Trudeau, saying he needs to be impeached or arrested. First of all, you don't impeach a prime minister. This is a parliamentary democracy. The prime minister is the leader of the party with the most seats in the government. The premier in each province is the leader of the party with the most seats in those governments. Lockdowns, health restrictions, that's a provincial matter. International border crossings are managed on two sides because by definition they're international. I do feel that I can withhold a certain degree of special vitriol, however, for that little lapdog Ted Cruz, because he was born in Calgary. And he has once again, that spineless creature has come out in support of the Canadian truckers and thanking them for what they're doing. Well, 86% of Albertans are vaccinated. I mention this because it's the least vaccinated province in the country. Over 90% of Newfoundlanders, congratulations Newfoundland and Labrador, the overwhelming majority of Canadians have accepted science. Some percentage, roughly 30% of Canadians across the country, feel like it's time to start loosening up restrictions. Now, this will be according to provincial governments and healthcare systems. I presume the majority of people protesting down here like the fact we have a public healthcare system. Well, the Canadian healthcare system is provincially managed. There's the Canada Health Act, which can redistribute some income, but essentially each province has its own statistics. So when I listen to the health officials in my province stand up and say there are X number of people in a hospital and another X number of people in intensive care because of COVID-19, those are solid numbers. It's a choice we have to make. People have had elective surgeries put off, necessary surgeries put off because of the pressure on our healthcare system. Do we need a broader conversation about expanding our public healthcare? Yes, I think we do. I think, for example, we need a national pharmacare program. But these are natural things to discuss and debate. Yet a small fringe supported by extremists, and when we say extremists, I mean people with Confederate flags and swastikas and so-called truckers, which are not truckers, they may have access to a truck, coming in and burning diesel 24 hours a day, honking horns and saying they're not going to leave until every restriction is removed, on top of the fact that that is a siege situation, on top of that very obvious troubling fact, they clearly don't understand how the system works. As I say, you don't impeach the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister could, and one day may well step down and there will be another leader and we'll go back to another election, but that will not trigger an election. We have a minority parliament. Now, it is interesting that the right-wing fringe of the Conservative Party in Canada, which in no way represents the whole party, but that right-wing fringe actually kicked out their reasonably moderate leader, and now they're meeting with these truckers. There was a time when the Conservative Party was the law and order party, and now it is clearly a collective of buffoons, and their new interim leader said she was going out and having dinner with these illegal occupying forces. And there's so many whatabouts, and I don't like to get into whataboutism, but let's just think for a second, if the national capital was taken over by people talking about Indigenous rights or climate change or better funding our healthcare system, these same politicians would be the first ones to jump up and say, clear them out. Yet we have an international border crossing in the south of Alberta blocked as Alberta products are blocked from getting to market. And now the one into southern Ontario is blocked, and apparently there's one lane open going south. So these people are talking about freedom. I never hear them talk about responsibility. And secondly, you're not representing my freedoms. My industry fell apart. I work in tourism. It fell apart under COVID. But you know what? We've survived. We've pulled together. I was listening the other day to a comedian who made a very good point. How many people think the restrictions have been too tight? And of course they applaud. Say, ask the dead people, see how they feel about it. I bet they'd wish we'd have done more. We have lost in this country over 30,000 people to COVID-19. These are not made up fake numbers. This is a quantifiable reality. In the United States, it's probably upwards of 1 million. Globally, official numbers are about 6 million lives, but probably closer to 15, 16 million. These are raw, factual statistics. If somehow this is a discussion about what freedom means, if wearing a mask in public not to spread a disease is a huge imposition, then I'm not sure where that same person feels their responsibilities lie. Because I pay taxes, because I'm a responsible member of my society. I dress appropriately when I go out. I make sure that my son goes to school. These are all our different responsibilities. And so calling this freedom, and by the way, they were all out at the entrance to our national park the other day, waving their flags and saying, do your own research. It's really worth stepping back and saying, what is real research? So there have been massive double-blind studies on these vaccinations. We know that we do not have years and years of research on these vaccines. We also don't have years and years of research on the virus because it's a global pandemic. What's the origin of it? Again, I will follow the science, but really that's not the point. The point is, we've needed to take a hold of this. Yep, people are frustrated, but most people have done the right thing. And it's so sad to me that around the world, people write to me and say, what's happening in Canada? Your country's been taken over, which it hasn't. And then B, somehow aligning oneself with just an angry fringe. These are depressed people. These are sad people. And when they latch on to something like this, it's like latching on to that lunatic down south, this Donald Trump creature who just plays on people's fear and anger. There are better answers here. So on behalf of the overwhelming majority of people here in this lovely society that we have been building together in Canada, I just want to say thank you to the frontline workers. Thank you to the government officials who are trying best to navigate a really difficult time. And I would like to reach out and offer the warmest hug possible to the people of Ottawa who are putting up with just utter extremism in front of our government house. And if we need to have fencing around it and controls because of this, what a tragedy, because that's not healthy debate. So get involved with your local elections. Get involved at the civic level, at the provincial level, at the federal level. That's how you engender change. Don't be angry, waving flags, honking and yelling at people and defecating on our memorials. Show some respect. Really, enough is enough. Thank you very much.